Hey guys, in this video we've got the Arrma Granite. Now this isn't one of the new ones. This one's been in the family for a good long time, and this one belongs to my son-in-law. And as you see right here, the body is pretty much destroyed. It has mismatched arms on it. The tires and wheels, not stock, mismatched as well, and he's had more fun with this car. Inside here, the servo has gone bad as well. It still has the stock STX2 radio in it, and it has a stock speed control and motor, and all of that's working good. We are going to put a few upgrades in it, and one thing we did right away, because these don't always hold up well, we put Velcro on the bodies, and for this particular model, that works really well. Still, inside you can see everything is stock, everything's still in pretty good condition interior wise. This has a lot of miles on it. We talked about the tires real quick. This car's gone through a lot of tires, and that's because my son-in-law's dog, she loves chasing this thing. And it's something they do to play together, but if she ever gets a hold of it, you need a tire, and he's gone through a lot of them. Still, we're gonna go ahead and show you the upgrades we're gonna put on this. And part of the upgrades is we've got a new body, and this one's got some good style to it. This is one off the Boost 4x2, but it'll still fit it, so that should be okay. Got some brand new tires, brand new arms from RPM. Got some big bore shocks to hang on to that fluid and keep it handling well. We do have the new servo, and we've got the metal spur gear that should help this thing have a little more longevity. So at the same time, this is all gonna go in. We're gonna show you how all of it's done, so that if you're having problems, if you've had one of these that's lasted as long as this one, sometimes it needs a refresher. Let's get this started. Check this out. Okay, one more thing before we get started here, and I missed it in the opening segment, but here's one of the things that these early models had problems with, and literally every corner of the car has no fluid left in the suspension. That was pretty common for these. The early plastic shock absorbers, they leaked and they had all kinds of trouble. That's why we're going to upgrade those. I wanted to show you that right away, but now you know. Let's get it on the bench and get started. All right, so let's get the body out of the way. And we need to get this driveline out. And these aren't usually too hard, but they can bind up. So one-handed, we're able to get this right out. So sometimes they bind a little, it takes two hands, but they are doable pretty easily. Now we need to get this red block out of the way. And there's one screw right here on the bottom that we need to remove. So let's back this out. There we go. And the nice thing is this block right here slides sideways. Just a little encouragement with a screwdriver, not prying hard against the motor, just a little. And there you go, slides right out. Now this block's important because it keeps the whole slipper clutch assembly from sliding out from the rear end. It's really important. We'll just tuck it up out of the way. And we'll pull the drive shaft off. And this is just a hub that allows the regular drive shaft to connect to the slipper. Now we need to get the motor out of the way, so let's disconnect the wires because this whole unit's going to come out of the car. We lift up on this tab real gently, don't pry hard, and then just a little encouragement here on side to side, one side then the other, and you can walk this right out. Problem is those rails in the bottom gain dirt, and they can be a little stubborn to get out. Just a little gentle prying and it'll come forward. Just like that. And there's the whole slipper clutch motor assembly. The whole transfer case is right there. There's 3 screws here to take this apart. So we'll go ahead and back these out. Real nice, and it separates real easily. Just like that. Get the cover out of the way, and here's the slipper assembly, and this is what we're going to work on right now. Take a good look at it, test the bearings, make sure everything is still spinning freely. If not, you'll have to work those a little bit with some lubrication. There's one screw that goes down through the center of this. So we'll go ahead and back this out. There we go. With it backed out, the whole thing will come apart into its internal components. So there's a hub for each side, and then these are the friction plates and the spacers. So here we go. We'll put these in a line for you so you can see what's there. And if you'll notice, these things are pretty burnt. We'll get into that in a minute. So there's the assembly for the basic stuff. There's some small items in there as well. If you want to know more about that, we do have the Slipper Clutch 101 video out that will help you understand that. So this is what we're going to replace it with, and this is from HR, and it is a metal spur gear. So let's put the bearing back in the center first, and then we're going to stack these in. Now, if you have to reuse these, you can turn them over and it'll give you a smooth side for a short period until you can afford to buy, you know, a full set to replace these, but they are reusable if you need to. This is a field fix. This isn't something you'd want to do for long term, but in the short term, it should work just fine. We've done this before and it does work for if you're trying to get an outing in with your friends and whatnot. So twisting that together to get it to key in properly, then we're going to go ahead and put the other slipper on the other side, and those two end plates tighten up and it will grip those pads. And how you adjust the pressure on that is how much traction it'll give you. However, take a look at that. Now we'll torque it down a little more. And you shouldn't be able to torque down. You should not be able to turn this. And look, it turns. Okay guys, so as we took this apart, you may have noticed that we had some really burnt components in here, and we'll show you an image of that right here. And these components were they were set forth by limitations within the slipper. Now, we did get some new parts here because we didn't have them in stock, so we had to pause the video for a minute and go and get some of these. But this is the outer set. It's got the disc here and the two outer pieces, and these are the aluminum components for the slipper itself. And then of course there are some new friction plates, and we have these. When this car's all put together, it'll have all the new stuff in it. But let's say, just for argument's sake, you don't have access to those and you want to run with your friends. There's a way to tune this that will help you with that. Now, this is a stopgap measure, and if you take a look at these things, each side of these has a little stub that sticks out. One is kind of hollow and the other one has a little brass fitting on it, and those should look like this. And those are in there and they dictate a certain distance between them. Okay, now what happens is, and even when you put these HR ones on, if you've got worn plates, you can tighten this all the way down, and we did that here, and take a look at this. It still slips in there. So it still turns even torqued all the way down, which shows the limitations. These two plates, you can squeeze them together like this and they won't get any closer. That's because those two stubs are a little more than they should be. They don't allow for any type of wear. However, that's easily fixable. So what we wound up doing is we took this apart and we did just a little file work, and each stub, take it down a little bit. The one with the brass fitting, if you'll notice, it sticks up just a skosh higher than the aluminum bit, and you can grind that down with a file. Just real gentle, guys. Just take it down so it's level with that aluminum. And then on the other piece, the hollow looking part, just evenly take that down a little as well. Fit them back together, make sure that they sit true. If you've got any weird spots in it, tune that out, and that'll give you just a little more closure so you can put pressure on your plates. Even the burnt plates can go back in and function properly. The thing is, those plates are two-sided. So if you've got a really burnt side, flip it over, put it against the spur gear so that that section is not being used, and now you're using the smooth side. It's one way to get more length out of the discs. In other words, longevity is key. So if you don't have access to the new parts and you want to run with your buddies, it's not over till it's over. So we're going to show you how to file that down real quick, and then we'll get everything put together and we'll get on to the next phase. Here you go, guys. Check this out. So these are the two end pieces, and these go together like this. And as tight as you push those together, there's a spacing in there, and you can't get them any tighter than that. That gap right between there is maximum. That's as much squeeze as you can get. Now the problem is, In some situations, you need to take a little bit off this, and we're going to gently do it with the file here. And we're not taking much off, just a little. And we're working real hard to make sure this stays nice and even. And this is not an aggressive file, so just taking it down a little bit to give it just a little more room when we close it up. So now when it goes together, it'll be a little closer, but just to make things even, let's do the other side as well. So this one has the brass fitting on it, and on this one, the brass fitting sticks up just a little bit, so we're going to shave that down to match the aluminum bit. There we go. And we'll just make sure it's nice and even down to that aluminum piece. There we go. Now it's even. So when you put these together, you've got these two, they're exactly the same, but when you put these together now, you'll have just a little more closure there, so you can pinch a little bit tighter. It's not going to change things much, but it will give you some positive control. So we're going to put new discs in, because I wouldn't give this to my son-in-law with burnt discs in it. So we'll go ahead and fit all this back in place, and now as he tightens things down with the new discs and the extra room in there, he'll be able to adjust it even if it burns a little bit. There we go. So let's take a look at it now, and we can tighten it up a little bit, loosen it a little bit. Still can't turn it. Good. There we go. So now it's adjusted. We'll put this back into the transfer case here, check the spacing between the pinion and the spur gear, and then we'll snap the cover back on. Let's tighten these down. Now don't run them down tight to start with, just nice and gentle, get them down just snug. There we go. And never torque them with a power tool. Always torque things by hand, guys, always. It gives you just that much more control. You definitely don't want to over tighten stuff like this. Now to reinstall it, you line up the rails and move it back and forth a little bit to get the things to line up, and snaps right in. There we go. Get the wiring connected. There we go. All three. Perfect, just like that. And we'll put this block back in. Oh, you got the Velcros in there. Let's loosen that up. There we go. Nice and easy. Put the screw back in to keep it from backing out. Nice. And torque it by hand. There we go. So that part of it's done now. Let's go ahead and put the hub in and the cover, and then we'll connect the drive shaft. There you have it. That part of the job is done. All right, now with the slipper sorted, it's time to attack the servo. Now, this is going to be a pretty long video if we do it all in one, so we're going to split this one into 2 weeks. So you're going to get the first part here with the slipper clutch and this, and then you're going to get the rest of it in the next installment. So let's get this on the bench, and we'll swap out the stock servo for a 20 kilogram servo. And this is a budget servo that we get from eBay. And they sell these all over the place, and we use the 20s, 25s, and the 35s, and we haven't had one fail yet. That's not exactly true. I put a 25 in the Creighton one day, and I put the aluminum servo saver unit in there, and I didn't file it and polish it, and it was really aggressive, and I caught I think it was a rock, and it yanked it, and it blew this right out. Now, the thing was, once I polished that servo saver and made it function properly, everything was golden. It was improper setup on the servo saver unit. That's what caused the problem. At the same time, these are metal geared servos, and there will be a link in the description down below for all these parts so you'll know what it is we're using. But these work pretty well, and we usually have no problems getting them in. So let's get this on the bench, and we'll install this, and then we'll set up for next week's video. So let's take a look at the bottom here. There's one armature screw we need to get out in the bottom. That one. Now that's detached underneath there. So we're going to have to get into the radio box. So let's go ahead and back out the screws here. We'll take the switch off. And now we'll go ahead and remove the speed control. And the same screws that hold the speed control in actually hold the top of the radio box. So we'll need to lift the speed control lightly and try and fish that lid out. So here we go. Be real careful against the wiring here, guys. Don't pull on any of the wires. So gently we want to pluck these wires out, and don't pull on the wires, pull on the plastic bits. There we go. And this is threaded through an armature here, so we're going to have to get this out. So let's back out the screws for the servo. There's 4, 2 on each side. There we go. And that one's missing a washer. So now we're just going to give us a little space with the wiring, just so I can get the servo out here. And we'll lift out the servo. Nice. And then there, see this little clip? We need to get the wires out of that, and there you go. So let's take the servo saver off, but first let's check the throw. See how it stages on the original ones. There's center, and that's the orientation we want to put it on in the new one. There we go, and that looks pretty good. So let's get our new one out here, and this is 20 kilograms, which is adequate for the 10th scale truck here, so that'll work. You may not need that, so let's see. And 25 teeth does work, so it fits good. Now let's check our staging and make sure we put it into the same orientation right there. And we'll fix it down. Nice. And the spring in there is working really well. That should take good care of that servo. Okay, let's get it in place, and we'll slide it down and make sure everything fits good. And it does, it goes right down in place. Nice. Okay, so we'll hook that down. Here we go. And the fourth one. So we'll walk all these down first, and then we'll seat them 1, 2, 3, 4, just to make sure that the servo's sitting where it belongs. There we go. And now what we need to do is pull this silicone sleeve up. Do you see that sleeve there? You got to fish these wires through there, and you need to do them vertically. They got to go through there in a vertical fashion, so they have to be on edge. You get them down in that sleeve. I know it's hard to see. And then you want to walk it right down inside of that, just like that. Real careful, do not pinch the wires here, guys. I'm being super gentle here. So the receiver on this is marked for the steering and the throttle, so that makes it a lot easier to reconnect. So that's all good, but here we got to pull this silicone piece up a little bit more, because we also have the wire from the ESC that's got to go through there. So we're going to fit that on top, and then we'll fit that set back down. Here we go. Now it's got the antenna lead, it's got the servo and the speed control through that, and that silicone sleeve is what's supposed to help keep the water out of that. So it's really important you keep that in there. So we'll put the lid on, and then we'll put the speed control right back in. Now when we brought this into the studio, there wasn't anything wrong with the speed control, the motor, any of that. That stuff was working good, so I'm not too worried about that. The question is, when I turn it on, Will it be centered enough to where we can use the servo the way it sits, or do I have to pull it back out and restation it to get it so it'll center up? And that's the gamble. There we go. Feels like it's getting full throw there. That's good too. So let's plug it in and see if it's going to work properly. There we go. We have a 3S battery in it. Turn it on. And the radio's on. It's steering good. Throttle's working. Right is right, left is left. That is cool. All right, so there's the servo installation for the Granite 3S, and that 20 kg went straight in. It's a little bit taller, but in this vehicle it doesn't make any difference. The footprint's the same when you mount it down. It does sit upside down, and the spline for that servo is exactly the same at 25 teeth. So the servo saver and everything from the original setup goes right on it. Little trick for that. When you go to put that servo saver in place, rotate the servo all the way one direction, note where it's at, rotate it all the way the other way, note where that's at, and then stop dead center and then recenter your servo saver to that point and hook it on. Then when you put it in the car, you're right in the area you need to be. The problem with this one is you have to pull the screws and lift it out and change the spline locations if you miss. So putting it in the center to start with is a good way to do it. You can turn the radio on and test it all that way. This seemed to work pretty good, and we had almost no trim to play with to get things centered up, so it worked really good there. As far as the transfer case, now it has that steel spur gear in it from HR. We did shave down the pieces we put in there, and if you crank it down just a little bit, you can give positive control to it and pretty much take the slipper mechanism out, but just back it off a quarter turn and work it till it works the way you want it to, and the slipper's up and running. It does have all new equipment in there, so that's cool. Alongside that, this is part one for the video, guys, and the rest of it, suspension, shocks, tires, and all that good stuff, is in part two. So if you haven't already, don't forget to bash that like button and help our content spread. You know, we love doing this kind of stuff, and every now and then a car hits a certain age to where these refits are necessary. Everyone who plays with these on the regular runs into this from time to time, and we're hoping these videos help you when you need it. Hey guys, if you have anything you want to share, please feel free to leave it in the comments down below and help others along the way. Hey guys, for AJ Jam Studios, I'm AJ saying, keep wrenching, guys.